Hello, this is Shane Clacken coming to you again from my woodpile for another woodpile talk. I'm going to give you a week in review for February 1st through the 7th of 2026. It was another busy week serving the people of District 37 in our great state. From personal family time to key local meetings, a legislative committee meeting, professional education, and the Montana Winter Kickoff. Here's a quick recap. On Sundays, I do go to church at the Community Christian Fellowship. You can find them on Facebook at Community Christian Fellowship and watch the sermon. Every sermon is really great, and I do encourage you to go there and watch. And Monday, February 2nd, was a personal day, which again is rare for me, but I got to take my dad again to physical therapy and occupational therapy, plus to get an INR to test his clotting factor for blood thinner he takes due to a stroke he had years ago. Tuesday, February 3rd, there was a far out and waiting planning meeting at the Grass Range Rural Fire Department here in Grass Range. I could not attend because I had to go to Helena to be there the next day to be the chair of a Legislative Consumer Council meeting. That meeting was to plan for the fire prevention and preparedness class that's coming out, a far out and waiting, that's coming to the Grass Range area on February 17th, starts at 5:30, and I encourage you to come. Contact Mary Jenny at 406-380-0051 because we want to get a head count for the number of people that's going to be there for a meal. It's not about registering to pay money to come, just come. Did you want to make sure they have enough food available? Again, that's February 17th, for the far out and waiting that talks about fire prevention and preparedness. It's important to the community. Wednesday, February 4th, I chaired the Legislative Consumer Council meeting. In that council, the Consumer Council reviews the cases that are involved in what the caseload they are following. The Legislative Consumer Committee is appointed by us legislators, and it is constitutionally required by Article 13, Section 2, and it's also codified in Montana Code Annotated. The Consumer Council represent Montana public utility and transportation customers before the Public Service Commission. So it's a really important committee that's doing the work, council that's doing the work. And they will also represent you, the ratepayer, me, at the state and federal courts and administrative agencies in matters concerning public utility regulation. As you can well imagine, the merger that's going on between Northwest Energy and the company they're merging with is a big deal. You see it in the papers, you hear it on the news. Of course, that particular thing going on was one of the topics at our meeting. Some MDU topics were there also, and then there's some other scattered things, but the big things are Northwest Energy. And I couldn't go to my Constitution class at the Harvest Church that day because, of course, I was in Helena. I dislike not being able to teach the Constitution to young people, but they're resilient. We'll be back next week and catch up. And on that day, Wednesday, we went back from Helena, back home for the next 3 days of activities. Thursday, February 5th, was a very busy day. Started out with the Leadership Central Montana in Lewistown. We met in the basement of the sheriff's office. And that group is a small group of local leaders who spend 1 day a month together to learn about local issues, gain some skills, and just helpful leadership issues that go on within our community. On that day, though, during lunchtime, I was able to go to the other homeschool group and teach the Constitution at Central Baptist Church. Friday, February 6th, traveled to Great Falls to go to the Montana GOP Winter Kickoff at the Heritage Inn. At that convention, it started basically at noon on Friday and ended about 2 p.m. on Saturday. And that's where you get down and dirty, see what's going on in the Republican Party in the state of Montana. It's stuff you don't get in news clips, in the news, the audible news, such as podcasts or TV or the newspaper. There was a lot of good things that happened there. One of them was Judge Dan Wilson got up and gave a really good presentation on why we should elect him as the next Chief Justice for the Montana Supreme Court. One of the associate justices, I should say, for the Montana Supreme Court. And he gave a breakdown of the Held case and why that decision was not in alignment with the Montana Constitution. Also, another thing we talked about there was this tax reform set of bills that was passed, neither of which I voted for, House Bill 231 or House Bill 542. And it turns out that there were some things that were not right about that. In fact, we're hearing about it in the papers and on the news. And there was a breakdown, a panel discussion about that. However, the panel that was on the side of 231, 542 just didn't show up. And there were good questions, however, that informed us that the 542 especially violated parts of the Montana Constitution. And that is why it's being taken to court by Senator Tom McGilvery, Senator Hertz, and former Senator Keith Regier. On Friday, February 6th, continuing the Montana winter kickoff. It lasted till about 2 p.m. And all I do want to let you know, my wife, she came up also. She was able to spend time with friends and family up in Great Falls, and we spent the night with them. Saturday, again, the winter kickoff terminated about 2 p.m. I have another announcement about a Lincoln Reagan dinner coming up where you can come and hear from local and statewide people who are running for office. The date for the Lincoln Reagan dinner here in Lewistown is Sunday, March 29th at the Yogo Inn. Doors open at 5. Tickets are $40 at the door. Or you can sponsor a table for $8. You can sponsor a table of 8 for $320. Sorry about the tongue twister there. Guests coming to that, speakers coming to that, are the Montana Senate President Matt Regier, the Supreme Court Associate Justice candidate Dan Wilson, Montana Senator Barry Usher, who is the senator for my House district, so all of Petroleum County, most of Fergus County, minus Moore and Denton. Of course, I'll be there giving a presentation. County Commissioner Ross Butcher will be there. Treasurer candidate Christy Taplin will be there. School board candidates will be there, and also Montana State Auditor James Brown. I want to let you know I've launched a website, ShaneClacken.com, to keep you informed. And I want you to really go to that, ShaneClacken.com, because there's way more going on than I can put in these short little videos, and also more than I can publish in a paper. So please go to that. You'll learn about me. You'll learn about the issues I'm interested in. I want to know what you are interested in. And you can sign up for a newsletter where you can get issues firsthand and we can talk about them. Please feel free to keep in touch with me, however. You can call me, 406-217-6107, 406-217-6107. If I'm busy, leave me a message with your name and a good callback number. I will get back to you. I'm really looking forward to meeting with everybody at any location to see what's on your mind. Again, go to ShaneClacken.com or call me, 406-217-6107. Stay in touch. God bless Montana.